Assalamualaikum and a very good day to our panel, Dr. Marni Ghazali and Puan Yuz Aznita binti Ustadi. Let us introduce ourselves first. My name is Nur Shazana binti Abdul Aziz and with my partner.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Nur Atira binti Rozian. My student ID number is 2019-627-222. So we are from group 54 and we will be presenting about the factors of influencing food waste behavior among household in Kampung Wakafstan, Kubang Krian, Kelantan. We are supervised by Puan Nur Ezrin binti Yusuf. We will start with the research background. Food waste is the reductions in quantitative or qualitative of food across the supply chain that were intended for human consumption. In simpler words, food waste is a food remainder that is not eaten or finished, or it is left spoiled beyond its expiry date as stated by Food and Agriculture Organization in 2013. Smith and Landry in 2021 defined food waste as the proportion of edible food that goes uneaten. According to Giroto et al. In 2015, food waste contains components for human consumption that are then abandoned, damaged, discarded, or contaminated. Bullet et al. In 2012 claimed that household food waste happened because of preparing extra large meals, buying too much food, and not reusing leftovers. Furthermore, food waste occurs at a substantially larger rate at the home level than at the company level, which leads to household being seen as the primary source of food waste, as stated by Hebrock and Hedenstam in 2019. As a result, Philomonau et al. In 2020 have emphasized the importance of conducting an additional empirical study on the many consumers' behavioral intentions about food waste, particularly at the household level. Next is the problem statement. Food waste is a serious problem because food waste has increased a lot over the years. The improperly managed food waste will release methane gas and a large amount of it when it ends up in landfills. Therefore, it adversely affects the Earth's climate and temperature that cause global warming and climate change. The statistics also show that we can decrease about 6% to 8% of all human-caused greenhouse gas emissions if people stop wasting food. In Malaysia, it has shown an alarming waste of wastage food produced by the 31 million population. In 2015, the Solid Waste Management and Public Cleansing Corporation shows a statistic on solid waste composition that Malaysians threw out 15,000 metric tons of food waste, including 3,000 metric tons that were still edible and should never have been thrown away. Managing food waste with using landfills and incineration methods does not seem to be very long-term, so preventing food waste at the household level is very important.
So I would like to proceed with the research questions and research objective. The first one of the research question is, what is the relationship between a sense of community on food waste behavior among households? And for the research objective, to identify the relationship between sense of community on food waste behavior among households. The second one is, what is the relationship between awareness of consequences on food waste behavior among households? And for the research objective, to identify the relationship between awareness of consequences on food waste behavior among households. And the last one, what is the relationship between environmental knowledge on food waste behavior among households? And the research objective, which is to identify the relationship between environmental knowledge on food waste behavior among households.
The conceptual framework is developed based on the literature and understanding of food waste behavior. It proposes a direct relationship between independent variables and dependent variables. There are three independent variables that can influence food waste behavior, which are sense of community, awareness of consequences, and environmental knowledge, and one dependent variable, which is the food waste behavior.
Next, we move to the independent variables and the hypothesis of each variables. As we may know, the hypotheses are the prediction or expectation that will be in the research. There were 3 independent variables used in the research, which is the sense of community, awareness of consequences, and environmental knowledge. Each variables will go through with the hypothesis. According to the first variable of sense of community, the hypothesis would be H1. There is a positive relationship between a sense of community and food waste behavior among households in Malaysia. Next, we move to the second variable, which is the awareness of consequences. The hypothesis will be in H2. There is a positive relationship between awareness of consequences and the food waste behavior among households in Malaysia. The last one, which is the environmental knowledge, the hypothesis will be the H3, which is there is a positive relationship between environmental knowledge and food waste behavior among households in Malaysia. Next, we move to the research methodology. There are 7 research methodology in our research. So we would like to go one by one of our research methodology, starting with research design. Research design is a cross-sectional design using quantitative that will be used in the study to achieve the study objective, which depends on the primary data from a survey that comprises the household from Kampung Wakafstan, Kubang Krian, Kelantan. For the unit of analysis, the people who will be studied are individuals who are referred to the household of Kampung Wakafstan, Kubang Krian, Kelantan, and it is to study the factors influencing food waste behavior among households. For the sample size, first and foremost, researchers will choose the population in Kelantan. Hence, researchers will take the respondent in Kubang Krian, Kampung Wakafstan with a 1,085 total population. Based on Kraja Morgan, the sample size that needs to be taken for this study is 285 respondents. The questionnaire about the factors influencing food waste behavior among households in Malaysia will be given to the respondent. In addition, the questionnaire would be divided into 5 parts. For the sampling technique, factors influencing food waste behavior among households in Malaysia will use the cluster sampling technique. First of all, most people will know that clusters are naturally present groups of people. Therefore, the cluster sampling technique would like to look upon the specific household responder responsible for their food waste at their homes. For the data measurement, this questionnaire developed based on the dependent and independent variable. In addition, the survey will be conducted in bilingual, which is in Malay and English. The research measurement used in the study is based on the Likert scale, which shows the 5 points of the answer. Firstly, based on the following subsection: strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree, and strongly agree. For the data analysis, we have 5 parts, which is Part A, demographic profile, Part B, sense of community, Part C, awareness of consequences, Part D, environmental knowledge, and Part E, food waste behavior. Furthermore, for the data collection, the researchers were running 4 tests to identify the result, which is reliability test, normality test, Kolmogorov-Smirnov, and Spearman rank correlation. Next, we proceed with the finding of demographic profile. We figure out with the 7 demographic profile in our research. The first one is gender, followed with age, race, the composition of the household, education level, the occupation, and the last one is food spending. We would like to go through one by one of the demographic profile. The first one, we would like to go with gender. We have 2 gender, which is the male and female. And the most respondent for the gender is female with the 163 number of respondent with a 57.2%. And the male is 122 respondent with a 42.8%. Followed with the age, the most number of respondents is 21 to 30 years old with the 111 number of respondents with the 38.9% of percentage, and the least is 50 years above with the 9 number of respondents and 3.2%. For the race, the most number of respondents is Malay with 248 number of respondents with the 87%, and the list is others with the 2 number of respondents and 0.7%. Next, we move to the composition. The most number of respondent is living with parent with the 168 number of respondent with a 58.9%, and the least is a single person with the 49 number of respondent with 17.2%. Move to the educational level. The most number of respondent is degree with bachelor, masters of PhD with the 131 number of respondent with the 46%, and the least is PMR with one number of respondent and 0.4%. For the occupation, the most number of respondent is the government sector with the 116 number of respondent with a 40.7%, and the least is retired age pensioner with a 3 number of respondent with the 1.1%. And lastly, the food spending with the most number of respondent is 500 to 1000 with the 39.6%, and the least is less than 100 with 4 number of respondent with the 1.4%. For the hypothesis testing, the researchers use Spearman rank correlation to run for the RO1, RO2, and RO3. Each RO having a different result, and each result contribute to the different hypothesis. The first research objective, which is the RO1, to identify the relationship between a sense of community on food waste behavior among households. The analysis used is Spearman rank correlation, and the result for the value is 0.019. Hence, there is no positive relationship between sense of community and food waste behavior after run the test. The RO2, which is to identify the relationship between awareness of consequences on food waste behavior among households. The analysis we use is Spearman rank correlations, and the value is 0.868. There is no positive relationship between awareness of consequences and food waste behavior. Lastly, the RO3, to identify the relationship between environmental knowledge on food waste behavior among households. The analysis the researchers use is Spearman rank correlations, and the result is 0.000. There is a positive relationship between environmental knowledge and food waste behavior. After run the test using the Spearman for each objective, the researchers will find out which research objective were not having a positive relationship with the dependent variable. Hence, after run the test for the Kolmogorov-Smirnov, each variable is normally distributed.
For the research implications, the researchers have found 3 implications. Firstly is reuse leftover food. To reduce food waste in the household, one can apply the 3R in their leftover food, which are the reduce, reuse, and recycle. Foods can be preserved and kept fresh for longer periods of time by being properly canned or pickled. This method of food preservation can stop food from rotting and being discarded if someone unintentionally purchases too much of a certain food. Secondly is to make a plan before buying. List the quantity required next to each product and all the ingredients that will be needed from the supermarket. When people buy with a list, it is much simpler to stay away from extra food and help to focus on the sections that offer the things that are important. The last implication is to share food with other people. Sharing meals among friends and families could be a practical strategy for reducing consumer food waste. Furthermore, food that would go to waste can be donated by using apps that can link neighbors with one another and with nearby restaurants so that extra food can be shared rather than wasted. One of the apps is called Olio. With the help of the Olio, individuals may alert neighbors about leftover food, enabling groups of people to gather and reduce unnecessary food waste. The first research limitation is the time limits. As a researcher, we found that having deadlines is quite stressful. The time constraints can affect the research paper negatively. These operational considerations could limit the amount of time that can be spent researching a topic and tracking change over time. Next is the sample size. As our research took place in Kampung Wakaustan, Kubang Kelantan, we only need 285 respondents to answer our questionnaire. Although each person may provide different results, this does not imply that the same results apply to the entire community. The future suggestion for the future researcher is to have time management. They are advised to manage their time wisely, as doing a research can be time consuming. Research productivity is boosted by efficient time management, which enables researchers to keep their attention on their task to create and maintain a successful research program. Last future recommendation is expanding the scope of study to a bigger area. The research can be done in a wider area or a few areas instead of focusing on just one place. The place can be taken in a different cities such as in Kedah, Johor Bahru or Pulau Pinang. Doing research in different places might get different results and different factors influencing food waste behavior among households. In conclusion, this study is to identify the factors influencing the food waste behavior among households in Kampung Wakaustan, Kubang Krian, Kelantan. There are 3 independent variables that help in making this study, which are sense of community, awareness of consequences, and environmental knowledge, and 1 dependent variable, which is the food waste behavior. It is important to know the factors influencing the food waste behavior among households. By having the knowledge about food waste, we can find out the problems and pinpoint on how to reduce food waste to take care of our environment.